What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today we are taking a look at Triangle Strategy on the Nintendo Switch. This game recently dropped on the platform, and I wanted to go over some of the reviews of the game because the review roundup went up yesterday, so kind of late. Usually it's about 2 days up before the game launches, but this time it was a day before the game launches. Now, before we get into anything though, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell to get my videos first, and thank you to everybody who's been watching the videos and enjoys the great Nintendo and RPG content that I'm providing for you guys. Now, let's go ahead and get into this here right on Metacritic with Triangle Strategy. We've got 41 reviews so far. Make sure you stay tuned because we are going to talk about the next HD-2D game that has not been announced yet. I kind of teased it a little bit in a previous video of mine, but some of you guys might have not seen it, but we're going to talk about it. I think I know for sure what game it is, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But let's go and let's continue on here with Triangle Strategy. So 41 reviews, an 83 average, so that puts it right about what we saw with other HD-2D games, or at least the other HD-2D game, and that is Octopath, because Octopath, if I cannot recall, I think that has a 85. No, it actually has an 83 as well. So it's right up there with Octopath Traveler. So these HD-2D games are very good. 83 is a fantastic score. Obviously not a game of the year type of score unless you're Death Stranding and the media. But outside of that, for the most part, not a game of the year type of game. But at the same time, it's still very good. And for a strategy RPG to review this well is definitely a good sign. A critically reviewed game is positive momentum for a game to continue or to potentially bring back other games. Now, here's what we know about the sales as well. With the sales of Triangle Strategy, it's up right there in like the top 20 pretty much everywhere worldwide on Amazon. So the hardcore fans, the Fire Emblem fans, the Final Fantasy Tactics fans, the Mario plus Rabbids fans, people that are into the strategy RPGs are picking this game up. So I love to see that as well. Now, getting into the reviews here, let's go over some of the reviews. We'll go over some of the big ones and good scores and also some of the bad ones as well. So there are no perfect scores for this game as of yet, and I don't think that there's going to be many more reviews just because this game is a smaller title. Obviously, it's coming out in a pretty hectic work month or months for the most part, with February and now March coming up here. So I don't think we're going to see many more of that. So no perfect scores, but we are going to read some of the high scores from sites that I know about. So Nintendo World Report, those guys do a fantastic job. They rate games fairly. They don't just say, hey, it's Nintendo, so it gets a 10 out of 10 or whatever. But they did give it the highest score on here, or at least one of the two highest scores on here, with a 9.5 or 95. And they say Triangle Strategy doesn't reinvent the strategy RPG genre, but it polishes it to an HD 2D shine. Each facet of the game complements the others, and at every turn, I was left waiting with a bated breath to see what would happen next. A new Game Plus mode unlocks after rolling credits, making it all the easier to dive back in and uncover paths yet untold. And the second I had completed one route, I felt that overwhelming rush to see what I had missed. The grid-style turn-based combat lives up to the best of its predecessors, and while it may lack the customizability of a job system, the cavalcade of recruitable party members is a worthy replacement. Whether you're in it for the story, the gameplay, or the aesthetics, the total package is one for the ages. And from any angle, the strategy is clear. Add Triangle Strategy to your Switch library. Maybe tell friends and family to end their turn. You're going to be busy for a while. So not bad so far when it comes down to it. Now let's read a 90 review, then we'll get into some of the 80s and then 70s as well. Now Nintendo Life gave it a 9 out of 10, and here's what they had to say. Triangle Strategy is an absolute triumph for ArtDink and Square Enix. A fantasy mix of satisfying strategic battles, an excellent choice-driven campaign narrative, and top-notch world building, all of which come together to form one of the finest tactical RPGs we've played in a very long time. There's an absolute ton of content here, with a huge story featuring multiple paths to take depending on the choices you make, and several properly impactful endings to enjoy on return visits. Serenoa Wolfort's epic journey is a joy from start to finish, a grand and ambitious adventure that stands proud as one of the very finest examples of its genre on Nintendo Switch. So awesome review as well. They seem to be very smitten with the story, the world, and how that all kind of comes together, which you can tell very early from playing the game, the impact that the game has. Like, you kind of feel a little bit of like panic in terms of what to pick, like what should you do in this situation and all of that. So I do like that about the game. Now let's go ahead and get into some of the 80s reviews here as well. So VGC, so that's Video Games Chronicle, they had an 8 out of 10 or 80, and here's what they had to say. Triangle Strategy is an enormous tactical RPG with a solid turn-based battle system. Its epic plot and lengthy dialogue may be a bit overbearing, but anyone willing to take on an extremely detailed story will have a wealth to do here. So I think that this is where you kind of get into that subjective term to where people who don't necessarily like a lot of the story and just kind of want to play and want that depth might feel that this game isn't quite up there maybe with Fire Emblem or some of the other tactical RPGs that have came out before, but it's there for you and it's still good. And if you're into it, cool, but not necessarily for me, but still really into it as well. So I think that was a good little snippet of that review. And of course, make sure you guys play the demo if you're interested before you go buy it. If you haven't bought it already, make sure that you actually do your research, you know, when it comes down to it. So play the game yourself. It's out there, you know, you don't have to rely upon reviews. You can play it and see what you think. But I think that hearing stuff like, hey, there's a new game plus and you can easily get back into it, see what you missed, is very good for replay value, very good for the score. I think that should factor into the score of the game, and of course factor into whether you buy the game or not, because if it takes a long time to get back into seeing a different route like Fire Emblem Three Houses, for example, you might not want to spend that 60 right away, and you might want to wait, or you might want to do something else, you know, whatever the case is. So I'm really glad that I was able to get that out from that review when it comes to Nintendo Rule Report. Now let's go and get into the 70s reviews here. We have 3 70s and we have 150, so one pretty bad score when it comes down to it. So RPG site, which is a site that I go to all the time, and this is what they had to say. It may seem that I'm cold on Triangle Strategy, but that's really just because I think it lands just shy of greatness. Hardcore strategy fans may not truly enjoy this unless they keep their expectations in check, but otherwise, Triangle Strategy does a great job repackaging a classic genre for a modern generation. I think what they mean by that, I'm going to intercede real quick, is that hardcore strategy fans, so guys that are really looking for that crazy depth within their strategy RPGs, might be a little bit upset here, because then he brings in like the modern generation, so a bit easier when it comes to the mechanics and stuff like that. So, okay, let's continue on here. The narrative lacks the tact and nuance to be remembered alongside the greats, but it still offers an engaging war drama that kept me invested. It sacrifices complexity for approachability in both the story and gameplay, which works even if I have some reservations. If you're looking for a great introduction strategy RPG or are desperate to get your fill on the Switch, Triangle Strategy should be on your radar. So very interesting, because everyone else just skimming by all talk about what is so good with this game, which is the dialogue and the story and all of that stuff. So that's what people have been talking about with this game. And then here he's kind of like, well, it's okay, but not that great. Doesn't have like the nuance and other things. So very interesting on that front. Now we're going to go to the worst review on here, and that is from Digital Trends, which I do not read Digital Trends. I do not know about them, but we're going to go over what they have to say, because it wasn't much. And this is what they had to say in the little snippet here. Triangle Strategy delivers smart tactics, but battles play second fiddle to its dull political lore. So there you go. The person does not like the story. I think that's the biggest thing. And when the game is constantly throwing story after wave and after dialogue and dialogue and dialogue at you, which this game has a lot of dialogue. If you've played the demo, there's a lot in there. Both demos, heck, both of them, when it comes down to it. I can understand that. I do feel that if the gameplay overrides your boredom with whatever the story does, I do think that it should be a bit better, because it's about playing the game. But at the same time, like if you're looking for that great story, or if you put it on the easy mode, which I'm guessing they probably did here, they put it on the easy mode, then I can understand why you don't like it that much at all, because the battles are really easy. You're not really thinking too much about that, but it's still fun, but the story is not gripping you. So yeah, I can definitely understand where this review is coming from if he's in that mindset, which I think he's in that mindset. So overall, not bad reviews at all. I think that this game did very well. 83, right up there with Octopath Traveler, right up there with the Team Asano games. It's actually better than Bravely Default. So this is a victory for Square Enix and their goal of what to use the Switch for. This is an exclusive as of right now, and it's an exclusive to Nintendo Switch, and these type of games need to do well. We need to see like that million units sold to where we can continue to get these Team Asano, these HD-2Ds, these reboots, these different styles of games that you won't really see on other platforms when it comes down to it. So I love that this is happening. But yes, ArtDink, the developers behind this, did a great job with the combat and the battle system, which pretty much everybody on these reviews is saying that the combat is great. There's a little bit of mixed reservations on the actual story of the game, but a lot of people are saying it's really good, but obviously there's a lot of dialogue, so that can turn off some people as well. Now, getting into the next part here, guys, I talked about this recently. I wanted to go over it again. I think that Square Enix is working on another big HD 2D remake of a classic out there, and that is Terranigma. That is the Super Famicom / Super Nintendo game that was never officially released here in the US, but actually saw a release from Nintendo and also Enix in Japan and Europe. So the game is already in English. So what they would need to do is do just like they're doing with Live Alive on the Nintendo Switch. But I think that these two games are actually connected. I personally feel if Live Alive does really well, or does well enough to where it's profitable and it's something that they can build upon, I think that they're going to bring over Terranigma as well. So I think that this could be the next game coming up, and that would be absolutely incredible. So I think I found out what the next HD 2D game is. And Square Enix is on a roll here with these HD 2D games. I mean, Octopath Traveler, great in 2018. We obviously have Triangle Strategy now at this point. We have Live Alive coming this summer. And then we also have the Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake. That's probably going to be early next year at some point. Maybe you'll take the time slot of a March 2023 like Triangle Strategy is. So I think that this is very good for gamers out there. Take these classic games that people have forgotten or that are buried in the history books or in the video game history books, bring them back. They have a brand new coat of paint, and they're going to be really good for people to play out there because, once again, Octopath Traveler, Triangle Strategy, both really good. We all know Live Alive, it looks like it's going to be freaking awesome. And then, of course, Dragon Quest, that's going to be amazing too. So I think that Terranigma is the next one from Square Enix, and I think it's going to be a Switch exclusive as well, just like Triangle Strategy is a Switch exclusive. Although Octopath Traveler did eventually come to the Xbox and PC, I'm not sure if the same thing is going to happen with Triangle Strategy and also Live Alive. I just don't know what's going to happen with it. So we'll see if some of those games actually end up getting ported over with Triangle Strategy and also Live Alive. But I think at first, at least at launch, we're going to see Terranigma on the Nintendo Switch, maybe even next year or so. So what are your thoughts when it comes to Triangle Strategy and the reviews for this game? You plan on picking it up? Are you gonna wait? What's going on with that? And then what do you think about my theory about the next HD 2D game announcement? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we will see you for the next video. Peace.